Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Times Higher Education webinar, Future-Proofing MBA Programs to Ensure Long-Term Graduate Success, held in partnership with Perlego. My name is Ritu Sajeev. I'm the Deputy Editor for Brand Content at Times Higher Education. As technology continues to transform higher education and the nature of jobs, universities now face the challenge of providing students with the essential knowledge and skills fit for jobs that are emerging or yet to be defined. MBA programs today must stay agile and responsive to help students remain competitive throughout their future careers. I'm excited to have a great group of experts on our panel today, representing institutions from different countries, who will share their perspectives on how to build strong, adaptable MBA programs that can keep up with the ongoing changes in industry demands, while the higher education sector itself is shifting to different models of teaching and learning. I will let the panelists introduce themselves. Luke.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining. So I work for Perlego, and a nice way to think about us is the Spotify for textbooks. So we're really concerned with resourcing business school and MBA programs. So I work with our partners across the UK. As a company, we're typically aligned with things like widening participation, diversity, equity, and inclusion, employability, and how you can embed that within the curriculum, and priorities aligned with international students. So recruiting them, but then also provisioning that content in an accessible way. And I would say if any of the content today kind of resonates with you and you have follow-up questions, then you can always connect with me on LinkedIn or drop me an email and we can pick up the chat after.
Martin, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martin Lukavec, and I work as a program leader for London School of Business and Finance, which is an online school. We have a really global reach. We teach students from about 160 countries around the world. And me personally, I've been involved in accreditation of many programs, including MBAs in the past and the currently run ones. So I hope I'll have enough to contribute to this discussion.
Thank you. Nick, please.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name's Nick Snowden. I'm the MBA director at Bradford University in North England. We have two MBA programs. A major one is online, and we also have a physical program in Dubai. So we're constantly looking to improve our ways of engaging students, and technology is clearly part of that.
Thank you. Patty, please.
Hi, my name is Patty Brown. I'm the former MBA director at ESSEC and HEC Business School, which included full-time MBA, executive MBA, the joint EMBA with the TRIUM, we call it the TRIUM, HEC, NYU, and London School of Economics, and with campuses in Qatar and Singapore, depending on the school.
Thank you. Rafał?
My name is Rafał Mrówka. I'm from Warsaw School of Economics in Poland. I am director of MBA program office at my school. We have four executive MBA programs, one in English, Canadian executive MBA, the second in Polish, MBA SGH, the third one, MBA for healthcare industry, and the fourth one, very innovative MBA for startups, fully online program.
Thank you. And finally, Wendy, please.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Wendy Loretto. I'm currently wearing two hats today. First is I'm Dean of the University of Edinburgh Business School in Scotland, UK. We have a suite of MBA programs, a full-time program, an executive program, and we recently last year launched an online program. My second hat is that I'm really privileged to be the new chair of AMBA, the Association of MBAs and Business Graduates Association. Really good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Before we begin, I would like to point out that we will be taking questions from the audience during the session. If you'd like to ask a question to the panel, please use the Q&A function on your screen. You will also receive a recording of this webinar and a post-event summary article in the coming days. I will now hand over to Luke Pennington, our panelist from Perlego, to say a few words about Perlego and our topic for discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep this brief because I'm sure we want to hear from the panelists more than me. But like I say, what we're starting to see a lot in the market is within business schools and MBAs, it's around how we can equip students with the employability skills that they can then take into their workplace. But also for those mature students that are doing MBAs, how can they get the skills that they need in a modern workplace? We know that there's some technological advancements around things like AI. So how do we view AI? Do we see it as a means to solve a lot of the challenges, or do we see it as another headache? And then those are really interesting for us as well. What we're also hearing is a lot in the market around diversifying the curriculum. So moving away from this kind of traditional way of resourcing, from a linear reading list, for example, to more broad resource lists, and just trying to be where the student is. So not just textbooks, journals, but also video, audio, and more experiential learning as well. At Perlego, this is an area that is very much on our radar. We're looking for ways to solve this and, like I say, improve engagement as a result of that and keep the students satisfied and attract them as well. We know that a big issue for business schools and MBAs is how do you balance that exclusivity of an MBA whilst also wanting to be inclusive, and everyone that wants to do it can do it. So that's a little bit of a flavour for what we've got today.
Thank you, Luke. From what you just said, I would like to start with the changes in student expectations. And I would like to start with you, Nick. At your institutions, are you witnessing changes in student expectations in recent years, and also in what they expect to gain from their MBA programs?
Definitely, yes. We're always very much paying attention to student expectations and trying to align what we do with that. It's particularly interesting at the moment to look at the I suppose in a way it's the impact of COVID and the way that the people have changed their mindset in terms of interaction. And whereas previously we perhaps leaned towards putting more and more information online, people now sort of recognize that the benefit of live interaction, not just in person, also, as we are doing here with online conversations, but online conversations that are more meaningful, much more interactive, two-way, and so getting that engagement and the skills involved with conducting those sort of engagements online, real time, that's much more important now than I would say 4 years ago.
Thank you. Rafael, has this been your experience at SGH Warsaw? Do you witness any changes in what students want out of their MBA programs?
Absolutely, a lot of changes. Of course, pandemic was one big change, I can say, and it changed completely the way we do our MBA programs at my university. 4 years ago, it was hard to believe that we could start anything online. Now, even in programs which are much more in person, we have some experiences which we use online, a lot of meetings in small teams. This additional work after our classes, it's made online by students. Interviews in this, when we recruit people to program, it's fully online already, of course. But from my point of view, it's still it's better to probably to mix this experience, not to be 100% online program, but to have this flexible, this hybrid experience. I said that one of my programs is fully online, but it's fully online. It means that still we have integration. We do it more traditional way. Still, we have some hybrid classes, which for most of students that are prepared online experience, but we have also possibility to participate in the classes in person in the class. So it's completely different today after this few years. Pandemic is over, but the way we teach, the way we make these programs are completely different.
Yeah, you mentioned really interesting points there. And before we talk about how institutions can leverage technology to offer innovative student experiences, I would like to come to Patty real quick and see if you have you see any overlaps with what our fellow panelists just mentioned in your experience at HEC Paris.
Well, I think our programs are expensive. That's what it is. So people want what they're paying for, and they want more than that. And we need to make sure we're giving them what they've paid for and go beyond that. So we need to be relevant. We need to give them information that's bite-sized, that they can plug and play, meaning especially the EMBAs after a module, they can go back to their companies and say, hey, I learned this. Let's go ahead and try this and let's plug and play and see what happens. They want contacts, so they need professors. Of course, our programs are nothing without our professors, but they need practitioners. They want someone from the real world coming in and saying, the professor's not lying. This theory has been proven, and this is how it happened in my company. And they also want micro certifications, and this is where the online really helps in terms of getting them certified, and especially the full-time MBAs that are a little bit younger, looking for a career change, getting them certified in things like Tableau, Power BI. So those things are going to push them over the top to make sure in a career change that they're able to do that. So people want more bang for their buck, and it's our responsibility to give it to them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Luke, please go ahead.
Just building off, I mean, what Nick, Rafael, and Patty mentioned around that idea, like post-COVID, and this is kind of a blessing in disguise. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Where it's hard to put that genie back in the bottle. We've got so much flexibility now, and the pandemic has shown just how flexible and agile universities can be. So it's really hard to backtrack off of that. And I think, Patty made a really good point around they want more bang for their buck and how you can demonstrate that. And that can be quite difficult to demonstrate in a digital space because it's quite intangible. So what does value look like digitally versus going into lessons and having that more in-person interaction where you come away going, that was an amazing use of my time. I don't have any answers to that. I'm sure you guys do that. Martin?
Yes, Martin, please go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah, just from the experience we have at LSBF, I think the biggest constraint always is budget constraint really is, how much you can actually dedicate, how much time the tutors can dedicate towards the individual attention to the students, which is basically also where the expectations from the students are mostly coming. How we approach it is we have a lot of pre-recorded, fine-tuned videos, plus we combine it with live sessions, with live lectures. But basically, we basically save a lot of time on we're having pre-recorded lectures, which are really basically there's no value in the same teacher repeating the same stuff every year, every semester. And all of it basically goes to feedback to the students, which is individual, which is much more directed. And it's basically we personally think it's a time well spent because it's individual directed to every student repeatedly throughout the course of any module. So my personal take is it's the individual attention which the students mostly require much more than we did before. And in this respect, I actually think that online should has a fairly big edge over traditional face-to-face, because what is your experience from live classroom? How much of the individual attention you actually got? in online version of programs, we kind of like enforce it that it's possible and it's actually absolutely required for tutors to do.
Thank you. Speaking of how much of an ally technology can be in addressing these challenges and changing student expectation, Nick, in your role as Director of MBA and Digital Learning, technology is clearly a key concern. What does striking that balance involve?
I mean, it's uncharted territory, isn't it? You know, we're into the age of AI. We don't know quite what to do with it yet. You know, I think I would think everybody here that has an academic program will be tussling with students using AI inappropriately as well as appropriately. But I think that also, I think we run the risk of being too frightened of that, being too scared of misuse of the tool, and academics not using the tool enough in order to develop their own program. We're just rewriting or modifying our program, and we're introducing a module where it's very much sort of the flipped classroom, where the students will take control of the content, and we will expect them to use AI in order to populate the content of their argument. So, you know, it separating what's their own work and what the work of AI is always still going to be challenging. But we recognize that this tool is not going to go away. It is a tool. It can save an incredible amount of time. We just have to learn to embrace it, use it safely and ethically, and navigate our way through that sort of minefield. Sorry, Wendy, I probably cut you off there. Your hand up, and
yes, Wendy, would you like to go ahead now?
Thank you. So I wanted to come in just very briefly on the previous point before we left that, but then I will tie it directly into technology. I think one of the ways that, you know, I've been reflecting MBA markets changed, and it's for the good of all of us and hopefully for all of us on the call, is that it's diversifying. So I think we're now seeing quite specific flavors of MBAs, and that's good, and that's, you know, it's attracting a more diverse field of candidates, whether that be gender, parts of the world, experience, sector, etc. And I think the, you know, the days of everybody doing an MBA principally because they wanted to advance in the company they're in, or, you know, to get a better job, we've diversified from that. We get a lot more people doing second careers, and we might come on and talk about lifelong learning later. But second career, people startups as well. And I think that's enabled us to offer particular flavors. So Edinburgh, we offer, you know, it'll be a small MBA compared to some people on the call, but actually the name is known because people want to do an MBA because they want to do those things. So I think ultimately that's good for the market as a whole, that we can develop, you know, perhaps distinctive. But to bring that back to technology, I put my AMBA hat on for a moment. There's a piece of research that will be published next week, and maybe we could disseminate that through THE if that's appropriate. But that is including 354 employers, and they very much identified, not surprisingly, that technology skills and AI being one of the key ones as being a skills gap into the future. So no great surprise there. But quite interestingly then, when it was drilled down to what skills gaps they felt in the future in general, it was skills of adaptability, resilience, and innovation. And I think I'll come maybe back to that later if we've got time, in general, how we promote those skills. But I think using AI to promote particularly innovation is going to be key to us. And I know that, you know, I'm absolutely with what Nick said in being able to use AI as creatively and as innovatively as we can. And we know that there is a really sort of growing industry in prompt engineering, i.e. being able to ask AI the right questions in order to be able to utilize the large language models. And I think some of the skills that we've always taught our MBAs is how you get under the skin of a scenario, a case study, you know, a particular assumed best way of practice, and what questions do you ask to really get under the skin in order that you can then, provide a better solution or a better route to solving a problem. Those, I think, will be absolutely key to how we help our MBAs engage with AI. They're key for us all, as citizens, as academics, but definitely for our MBAs. Thank you.
Thank you. But could I also ask you what strategies institutions can adopt to promote those critical skills related to AI along with disciplinary expertise and skills? Wendy?
Yeah, I'll be very brief, obviously, because the others wanting to come in. Do you know, I'm an advocate of it. Can I go back to the AMBA survey for a moment? The biggest disappointment, if you like, for employers where they saw that people coming out of business graduate education with the lowest preparedness was good old-fashioned soft skills. So I think in some ways not losing sight of the fact that some of the things that we need to help our students, adapt to the skills that they need in the future is to make sure that we don't abandon what's traditionally very strong about an MBA. So just within the University of Edinburgh, we do a very strong coaching culture. I know that's not unique. Many others will do that, but really embracing coaching to be able to build students' adaptability and resilience, two of those areas, that were identified. Because if we don't, have students being able to build on those and take them far beyond their MBA, no amount of innovative content is going to equip them for the future. So I think my combination would be, yes, be innovative in our content, be innovative in our pedagogy, but actually don't forget some of the good old-fashioned basics and the values, if you like, that underpin probably all our MBAs.
Thank you, Wendy. Luke, please go ahead.
Yeah, just building on just kind of the use of that technology, and where we're seeing that is this kind of highlighting the need for things like just-in-time training. So because there is so much content available, often we don't often utilize what we've read, and then 2, 3, 4 weeks later we put that into use. We want to kind of put it into use as and when we see it. I think that's why subjects like business, with this kind of multidisciplinary nature, would benefit most from something like AI. But there is a lot of caution around the type of tools that are introduced there. I guess in terms of the tools that we see it being used most effectively in is, universities already subscribe to so many different kinds of repositories and different resources. I think some universities have over 400 different repositories. So when it comes to looking for different types of content, it can be really difficult. So being able to underlie that with an AI search that can index all of this content, knows what all of this content is about, and then a student can type in a semantic way, this is what I'm looking for, and is then being able to provide all of that content around that, I think is a really exciting use potentially of AI, because you can watch a video, you can read an article, put it to you straight away when I need it. And then obviously off the back of that, that can then go into refining the search for future generations of students that might be looking for something similar. The second way that we see it being used is actually a feature that we are testing internally called Deep Search. And this is in line with widening participation initiatives as well. And again, moving away from that linear resourcing. So many universities are saying, look, this foundational business text is the same, whether it's from this person, this company or this company. We just want students to have that agency to find this content. And so with Deep Search, it will, when you type in a query, what is this? How do I do this? Theory, for example, it will look through every page on Perlego and provide a result, not just one result, but several results. This is great for institutions that maybe are looking to reduce their dependency on certain businesses. And it's also great for students that are not looking at that kind of, you want them to go wider and broader. So it's great for those students that aren't academically literate because they're signposted, but it's also great for those students who are academically minded because they now have 3, 4, 5 different other resources they can look into. And I think that ties very well with Wendy's point around soft skills or core skills, where I'm speaking to partners who say, look, our students don't know how to interview, they don't know how to dress for an interview, they don't see the value in turning up on time, and they don't really see the issue with that. And that's quite a not a scary place, but it prevents these really unique opportunities, which we didn't have 5, 6 years ago. But yes, Raphael, I know that your hand's been up for a while now, so you chip in.
Okay, I want to mix a few issues together because from my point of view, of course, the future is about technology, about AI, about different experiences which we have because of technology. We can have because of technology, of course. By the way, it's also a big change now because there's a question about this culture, let's say, exchange on Q&A in Q&A window, because, for example, of technology, we can have this possibility to work together with students with completely different parties in the world now, and to have this experience during the whole studies much more now than few years ago. But what is funny from my point of view that we think that technology is so crucial, but in the end, the more important from my point of view are soft skills. Wendy said something like that, and I completely agree that soft skills is something we should much more develop now because technology will change. We still don't know, being honest, what AI can change in our life. We know that we have changes, but we are not sure what sort of changes we will have because of AI in the future. But what is I can say quite universal, it's this innovative mind, it's open culture mind, it's a possibility to use diverse experiences. So a lot of soft leadership skills also. It will be very hard to use AI in these areas in the future. So it's starting to be a crucial element of MBA curriculum. And from my point of view, the most important elements in my MBA for Startups program is teaching these elements. It means teaching how to communicate properly, how to work with very diverse teams properly, how to also the soft skills are absolutely crucial from this point of view, and I think the future of MBA curriculum is not teaching technology. It's much more how to use technology proper way, using soft skills of people. It's the future from my point of view.
Thank you. There are a few threads that we can pull on there. I would like to wrap up this section by asking the panel to also address how institutions can confront some of the challenges that are associated with emerging technologies, and what kind of challenges are specific to this field. Patty, would you like to take this one?
Well, this bounces off a little bit what Nick was saying earlier. We're our own worst enemy. If we're not prepared internally on how to teach and adapt to AI, then what are we doing? So I would say, first of all, we need to look internally, see what our professors are doing, partner with technological companies to learn more about how this can be used for us. If I was a professor, which I'm obviously not, I would be also concerned about AI taking over my job. The next step is having artificial intelligence have a figure of John Kennedy teaching U.S. politics. I mean, this is where we're headed somewhere in the future. So I think adapting internally is step number one. Martin?
Thank you. So, from my perspective, basically, this transformation or this AI tools which are became available, it basically means that some things suddenly became much simpler than before. As with every technology beforehand, basically the tool, like, it's like basically something like really capable yet slightly dumb assistant. It's basically like, how it works. It can give you like some things absolutely wonderfully, then like it's totally failing on some other aspects, mostly in critical thinking, in judgment, and creativity. It's basically a tool which like is really efficient in repeating what has been written on a subject in slightly different ways. So like, basically our approach as a teacher should be basically reacting to it. There's no point to keep teaching our students to write, which is basically what most of the like academic programs, APA somehow a little bit excluded, has been mostly concentrating on the writing part. We basically just like made like our students to compose really good arguments most of the time, which like is basically something which just lost relevance. And we have to react to it in a sense that, like, first of all, we should expect the arguments to be much better. They should be much more applied than before. They should be much more creative than have been before, because, like, honestly, like, there's no need to actually teach them to actually put together an argument as we did now. Like, they can do it using these tools. So basically, we should like basically go one step over and just basically, again, concentrate on the niche which the AI can do. And like, so far, looking how technology works, will not be doing for a while.
Thank you. I would like to talk about accessibility and role of technology to especially increase access to high quality resources. Patty, you mentioned this aspect of exclusivity and also inclusivity in the beginning. So how does offering exclusive access to high quality resources enrich the quality of MBA programs?
Well, I can go with this time. I'm going to piggyback on what Wendy was saying earlier. Exclusivity equals a flavor. And I think that's what our MBA programs are going to be. It helps us make sure that the clients, the participants, the future students know what we're known for. What is our program known for? What alumni do we bring on board? What are we doing that's new and cool? Because like I said before, people are investing a lot of time and money, and it's not just the participants, it's their families too that suffer through this. So it's got to be worth it, and someone needs to get out of it. The aims achieved need to be there. So that would be my answer, kind of coupling on what Wendy was saying earlier.
And I'll throw this open to the panel now. What are some of the challenges that you face while trying to offer such resources? Wendy, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, just build on the last question, then come to, because they follow on very nicely. I think, we've all talked about different formats of offering MBAs, and I think that's good to have that flexibility. That, for some people, it'll absolutely be a full-time program, face-to-face will be the right MBA for them. For some, completely online, for others hybrid. I think that's good. I think the other thing that really goes neatly into the challenges is offering different entry routes, and also indeed post MBA support as well. So Patty mentioned earlier about, I don't remember, Patty, you used the term micro-credentials or stackables, but you were talking around that area, weren't you? And we're all thinking about that as we think about indeed offering greater flexibility and inclusivity and options for that, but also as we think about lifelong learning. And I think we're simultaneously in a very exciting world for what we can do with that, because it might be a way of involving industry in a different way to help input to new programs. We might innovate and experiment a bit more as academic institutions if we're innovating and experimenting around, say, a short course rather than a full-blown MBA. So I think it's always good to be able to keep the content very contemporary. So I think there's great positives. I think, if I'm being completely honest, and it'd be interesting to see if anyone else has this, whether or not they admit to it, but actually doing it in a financially sustainable way as academic institutions is not the easiest. And I think, while we've had some brilliant open access initiatives, and we in the University of Edinburgh have also subscribed to those, maybe through platforms that we do, free education to get people in, but actually, how do you then maybe step that up to a monetized offering, and something that you can go back to that again, theme that came earlier, is value for money for our students and our learners, but also something that is financially sustainable for us. So as institutions, we can keep on offering it. And for me, I think that's still one of maybe the big unanswered challenges out there as we all work our way work our way through this.
Thank you. Patty, please go ahead.
Yeah, to answer Wendy's question, it's all about the budget. What we experimented a little bit with was during vacation periods, we had intensive electives, so electives that were taught over 2.5 days. And we experimented with new subjects that weren't being taught, some stuff, and we allowed 25% of the class participants could be from executive MBA graduates and MBA graduates, so they could come back. So it was not only filling the class, it didn't cost us anymore. We capped it at 50 students, so it didn't cost us anymore, but it also added value. And it allowed us to test to see what was going on in terms of topics and perhaps moving on. So that was something that we were budget conscious and tried to see what we could do. And it was a great success. We ended up filling all of those classes. The alumni were absolutely happy because I don't know why they keep wanting to go back to class. So they love homework. But it worked out really well. So that's just something we experimented with.
Mm-hmm. Rafael, have you had similar experiences at your institutions?
Maybe going back to a question about challenges we had. From my point of view, the big challenge is, let's say, the format of MBA program also, because it's extremely flexible, extremely fast work. MBA program, it's 2 years spent on the university, over long period of time. And from the perspective of my students, especially this younger generation, to invest so much time in this learning process, it's a little bit hard and sometimes even controversial. So I think this format of 2-year MBA program starting to be a little bit controversial, especially when we think, I said that I'm director also of MBA for startups program. MBA for startups. For startups, 2 years, it's sometimes it's few pivots. It's a few completely changes in a business model. It means to give them still knowledge which is useful for them, but also to engage them proper way. It's a challenge, really. I think we do that because it's a little bit different format of these studies, because we like to think about ourselves that we are also as a startup. MBA for startups programs as a startup also. So we are flexible. We change our curriculum all the time. We experiment with a lot of elements. We make some such experimental sessions together with students because we think it's the only way to engage people for such a long period of time today. By the way, Patty said about inviting alumni to the class. We do that also, and I absolutely agree that it's a win-win strategy, because it's a win strategy for alumni, because they can come back to the university and to have another new knowledge because we changed something in the program, but it's also very useful for our current students because what we cannot find in the internet as a free resources is this exchange between students. It's really probably the most important part of MBA program. So we have that because of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Martin, could you perhaps speak a little more about customized learning and personalizing programs to cater to students' needs and expectations? We mentioned stackable programs and bespoke courses.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit about that, please?
Like personally, I'm like quite skeptical actually about stackable credentials and collecting badges and all of that. Mostly because of course, it works inside of the company culture, it works fairly well, but for on a job market, it doesn't seem to, honestly. I don't know if it's like a heresy to say such a thing right now, but like it seems like that employers value like whole titles much more than like a stackable credentials. We can argue about like how much of it is signaling, how much of it is like basically proof that like somebody is capable of like finishing this like really high demanding ordeal of finishing a program. Anyway, as for individual attention, like as I said, it's like our priority, which we're doing, like what we're doing with LSBF, basically like individual attention to students. I'm personally really excited about the progress in AI, mostly because I feel that the online or the AI tutors, as somebody here mentioned before, it's like basically a threat to our jobs. I'd be kind of skeptical about if it was still the case, but it is definitely true that basically the online tutors, what they are going to do is they're going to cooperate with the students like much more. Like so far we are waiting for the product. I'm like really excited about actually seeing it if it like when finally exists. So far Khan Academy for elementary schools developed something called Khanmingo, which is basically an AI tutor, which like works a little bit in the respect. There's a lot of problems with it so far, but on wonderful technology. But like imagine having some AI, even AI tutor, like who's basically giving you feedback on your progress, on your strengths all the time. Something which like we didn't experience in our classrooms ever. All right. If we had a teacher who actually understood our strengths, that was something which we basically remember the teachers in like till today. Suddenly that's going to be possible thanks to AI. So like of course the impact on education is going to be like overwhelmingly positive. At least like that's my personal opinion. But and I think that it's going to it's going to free the teacher's hands like even more, because of course like abundance of individual attention in some respects, which the AI is going to is going to be able to give, will free the hands for for the remaining parts which the AI can't. And we're really looking forward to this personalized version of AI education, which is probably ahead of us. Hard to say, but that would be my personal guess.
Thank you. Yes, Nick, please go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Martin to an extent. I do wonder how good we are going to become at identifying when we're being helped by AI and having our programs individualized by AI. I'm not convinced, certainly not within the next couple of years, 3 years, that's really going to be the way forward, or that it should be. I mean, the way we're looking at individualizing our programs is actually around the edges of the program, around and essentially we engage students through having them identify their own strengths and weaknesses. And in that way, you not only do you go through that effectively a process of individualizing a program and then providing a menu of activities, some of them outside of the curriculum, the normal MBA curriculum, that they can do to plug those gaps that they perceive that they have. But it also serves the purpose of engaging them with that. I often get questions from potential students. I probably shouldn't say this, but I get questions from students saying, well, from potential students saying, how quickly can I finish it? How, what's the shortest time I can do this in? And I tend to say, well, look, if that's what you're bothered about, go onto Google and type in, MBA online, and someone will sell you an MBA certificate online. don't know how much you'll pay. But if the piece of paper is all that you want, then there are much easier ways than doing our program. Our program engages you, or tries, goes to great lengths to engage you in the learning that is specific to your needs. It's not just about the piece of paper. And that is, I think, where we, the importance of taking active steps to engage people with what they're learning, not just about, the piece of paper that they get at the end of it, as a mark of the qualification, a mark of their ability, is so important. Sorry, Wendy.
Thank you, Nick. Wendy, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely fascinating, Nick, and I completely agree with you and Martin as well. And it's great to hear, that the MBA still has value as a greater value as the whole is better than the sum of parts. I think that notion, Nick, you mentioned about really it helping students to ask the right questions, to help them to ask questions of themselves as much as anything else, goes back to what I was saying about coaching earlier and the importance of it. And something I think that we do value is quality MBA programs. And AI so far, I know it is evolving and will evolve incredibly rapidly, but so far is rubbish at that area. So with my research hat on, trying to develop a coaching app around about health in the workplace, and actually getting AI to be able to, to ask the right questions to help people reflect. All the coaching type questions we would ask, help them reflect, help them to really come to solutions and then explore those. AI is not the strongest in that area. So far, I think people are absolutely superior. So that will be a real game changer if we get coaching via AI sorted. But at the moment, we don't have it. So people all the way for that.
Thank you. I think on that note, let's take a diversion and talk about employability and strategies for building and improving graduate success in the long run. What are the challenges involved in preparing students for jobs that are either emerging or yet to be defined clearly?
I think the key, certainly from our point of view as program leaders, program directors, is that we need to look at the sort of skills Wendy mentioned earlier on, the generic broad skills around, yes, it's soft skills, but it's problem solving, it's critical thinking, it's the sort of thing that students actually, when they've finished the program, they come back to you and they say, the good students say, I recognize, we always say, look, what we teach you in class in terms of the content will be out of date by the time you graduate, because things move so quickly. What won't be out of date is the changes to the way you think and the way you approach problems. And that's what the feedback is when they've embraced the program and been encouraged, facilitated in thinking deeply. They say, it's changed the way that I think. And that for me is success. And it isn't always measured in traditional metrics, it's not always just that they've improved their salary. It's that they are happier in life. They've decided to make a change to what they're doing. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the partly the how we meet that challenge of improving employability by ensuring people do jobs that think about their jobs and think about what it is that they want to do.
Thank you. Yes, Rafael.
Of course, I can say that I agree with Nick what he said now. These soft skills, this wider skills, it's the most important. But you know, I have such a philosophy that the best panel is the panel with some sort of disagreement. Also, so let me be a little bit provocative now, because from my point of view, we don't know what will be the future of artificial intelligence. It's probably hard to, it was hard to imagine 3 years ago how fast this process is coming, how fast the changes in our society. And it means that we have no quite a sure idea what will be the future of artificial intelligence. Maybe Nick is right that, maybe Wendy is right that this artificial intelligence is not extremely good in, let's say, creative issues now. But I'm not so sure it will be also a future. And it means it's very hard to profit what will be the future of MBAs also. Now I can say I agree with Nick, but it's possible for me that I will change my mind in a few years also. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Martin. Sorry,
muted.
mute again.
I'm sorry, my mouse is a bit dodgy. I totally agree with what Rafael is saying. Like, you know, like technological change is never predictable. You know, like basically, you know, it basically comes and destroys jobs, creates jobs somewhere else. There's like really nothing unusual about it. Like, you know, 200 years ago, none of the jobs which exist now really existed then. Even farming, which like, you know, at the time was occupied by 99% of people, you know, is being done totally differently today. So like, it's basically, if anything was kind of strange about last 30 years was that like the technological change was actually fairly slow. You know, like there hasn't been so many transformations in the last 30 years as they were, like, you know, when like electricity came around and all other changes. What is kind of unusual about AI is that suddenly it destroys jobs which are white collar, you know, which are like fairly educated, which never happened in the past. But like, you know, as a change, it has not been really so unexpected. And like, you know, as I was trying to say before, like this change, while it might be major, will probably not cause like of course there's going to be new jobs. Creative destruction is extremely powerful concept which seems to be holding now as well. And we're just basically doing something different than we did before. How do you prepare for it? Well, you know, exactly as we did before. You know, you just have to be open-minded. You have to be mobile, which is hard to teach, you know, because jobs tend to pop up in different places than they did before. And you have to be like really agile in your mind. That's basically the highest skill, the biggest skill which you can ever learn, you know, basically constantly change all the time, which you're doing, and please adopt to new technologies. It's what we should be asking our students. You know, we have to learn new technologies all the time. So next time you won't be surprised and you won't lose the thread of like, you know, the technological.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Patty.
Yeah, just the thing that's in common with the MBA graduates, whether they graduate today or in 10 years, or if they graduated 200 years ago, is that they will be dealing with people. And whatever we teach them, we have to teach them people skills. But we're already doing a great job on MBA programs with group work. We're teaching them how to deal with other people that maybe don't pull their weight or pull their weight too much. So within our programs, we're already doing a pretty good job at teaching them, giving them the people skills. And we have to continue to do that. AI is going to get rid of some of the jobs, if there's always going to be a person behind the machine that's prompting it. So we do have to get those, we have to teach empathy. There are some people that, some cultures, they don't know what empathy is and how to be empathetic with their teams. And those are going to be the most important skills.
Mhm. I think in the final few minutes of our webinar, I would like to talk about how institutions can establish sustainable frameworks for continuous learning and continuous development to ensure long-term success for MBA graduates.
I can maybe kick off with that and maybe answers one of the questions that's been put on the Q&A, is that I think as business schools, we are acutely aware that we do want to offer lifelong learning, and it's in the society that we're all in now, that we are living and working longer than ever before and potentially changing careers more than we ever did before. So, looking back, Kaiser, to the institution you did your MBA, and what do they offer? In terms, because you might well get some nice alumni incentives to engage with the institution, but also not being restricted with the institution that you did your MBA at, because I think MBA, business schools in general are really paying attention to this, and every institution will have its areas of particular specialism, excellence, because that's what the institution has academic and industry ties with. So I think looking across the MBA landscape for what is there is really positive. Whether we should be doing more as a community, maybe that's not a big surprise to hear, with my AMBA chair hat on. But I think as business schools, we are quite good at working together. But can we do more in this space to actually say what we're offering? Because we will all offer different things. And as I said, we will all have our specialisms. So maybe working together is something we could be doing more in that space.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Wendy. I think we only have a few minutes left, so I'd like to take a couple of questions from the Q&A chat. The first question we have is, do you find students from different countries and cultures interact differently with online and face-to-face learning materials? What do you find works best with raising engagement levels?
I'll say very briefly, sorry, I don't want to dominate with others, but embracing that diversity, because you're absolutely right. People will come in with very different experience. It may be personal as much as cultural, the preferences for how they engage, or just because of the industries they've worked in. But I think, again, as MBA providers of quality, it's incumbent upon us to utilize that diversity to pull on whether it's pre-induction material, induction, and get people all in there so that they are learning how to share their experiences. And as others have said in this call, I think one of the brilliant things about the MBA as a whole is that it's as much learning from each other as it is from so-called experts. And I think the sooner you start that in the program to bring everybody together and do that, you actually, I'm not saying you overcome cultural differences, because that sounds as if they're wrong, but you actually, you utilize those for the benefit of everybody in the program.
20. Yes, Nick.
Yeah, no, just reinforcing what Wendy's saying, really, in that it's about recognizing the benefits that cultural differences bring, that actually it helps you manage those cultural differences within the classroom. You embrace it as an opportunity, and people become aware that perhaps the way that they operate in their culture isn't interpreted in the same way in other cultures. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a key part of a very international program that I think most of us have.
Thank you. Yes, Martin, please go ahead.
Yeah, so my most biggest take on this issue is I'm continuously, after 15 years teaching, I'm continuously surprised by how everybody in the world is sort of the same, that the communication flows between people so easily, no matter where they are from. The only aspect culturally which I found extremely impeding has always been the hierarchy, which is more present in some countries and not so present in other countries, that some students basically quite often feel like they are not entitled to speak. And we are of course trying to we are doing everything to kind of basically feel the students welcome and let them to reach the realization that that's not the case with Western education. But it is like a big impeding factor which needs to be remembered. Basically, especially from Southeast Asia, people quite often come and really respect some invisible hierarchies which don't really exist in our education, but they still see them. So that's a big problem which I see. But otherwise, I think we are pretty much the same everywhere you come from. You can have a conversation, meaningful conversation about anything with with everybody, unless there's something stopping them.
Yes, thank you. Before I come to you, Rafał, there's another question here about ensuring success of online MBA programs. Could you also speak to that?
Okay, maybe I can mix the answer on both questions because from my point of view, this cross-cultural experience is something incredibly fruitful for MBA students. This diversity is one of the most important element, and because of online, we have a lot of possibilities to use this diversification, to use this cross-cultural experiences. And but what is important from my point of view that to concentrate, to focus more on, not on the result of the process, but to concentrate more on the process itself. It means how we communicate, how different we perceive for different issues, how we behave in different situations, to focus the concentration of people on the process. It's crucial to understand these differences, to understand how fruitful for them it could be to work in such a cross-cultural team. And because of that, as I said, this online experience is great because there is no this geographical barriers for students. The biggest barrier I have, for example, with students, time zones, the same one, because I had such a class, for example, I had students at the same moment from China and from the US, and the class was in Poland, for example. It means the time zones was from -6 to +6 hours. It's sometimes crazy, and it's a big challenge in such a situation.
Thank you. I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. I would like to thank our panelists for their time today and sharing their insights. And thank you to all our participants for joining and contributing to the discussion. Recording of this webinar will be available on the THE Connect YouTube channel shortly. Thank you and goodbye.